So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Welcome back, everyone, to Call Me CEO. This is Camille Walker, your host, and today I'm with Grant Baldwin, who is the CEO of the Speaker Lab. He helps you take your story and turn it into profit and turn it into something where you can storytell and share all over the world, because now people are doing it virtually and in person. And I cannot wait to dive into this. You know that I very rarely take on male guests. And so this is a special day. And I know that Grant's going to help us out a lot, because here's the thing I have noticed, and Grant, I'm going to turn this over to you a little bit. And thank you so much for being here. I have not seen as many women speakers as I do see paid men speakers. And I don't know why that is. I'm guessing you have some insight on that. But thank you for being here on the show. And I can't wait to dive into this topic with you.
Yeah, thanks for letting me hang out with you. I really appreciate it. We were talking just a second ago before we started recording. I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We have 3 daughters, so I'm in a house full of women. It's just me and the dog. We're hanging out to it. So hanging out with you and a bunch of moms, I feel right at home. So this is awesome, and I'm excited to hang out with you, talk to speaking, all things speaking, and where we're going to cover today.
Now, I love to hear the background of how you got started in what it is that you do and how you've made it such a massively successful career. I mean, you're a best-selling author, you have your podcast, you also have your community of all of these thousands of people that you've helped. So how did you get started in this business?
Yeah. So if we go way back in time, in high school, I was really involved in my local church, and my youth pastor had a really big impact in my life. And that was kind of the trajectory I was on. I was like, I want to do that. Like, that seems like a really cool gig. You know, I kind of felt like if I could make the kind of impact in others' lives that he made in my life, like that just seemed incredibly rewarding and fulfilling. And so I actually went to Bible college. I worked at a different church as a youth pastor for a little while. And there were parts of it I liked, parts of it I didn't like. But the thing I really enjoyed was I really enjoyed speaking. Speaking was one of those things I felt like I was decent at. And I had a lot of at-bats and practice speaking at church on a weekly basis. And I wanted to do more of it, but I just didn't really know, like, how do you get started? And I had a lot of the questions that maybe you or your audience has asked, as things like, you know, how do you find gigs, and what do you speak about, and who hires speakers, and how much do you charge? And like, how does this mysterious industry work? Like, how does this happen? And so at the time, this was about 17 years ago or so, there wasn't really any podcasts or books or resources on the topic. And so I found myself just like emailing, harassing, stalking other speakers, and just like, hey, Jim, just let me, the pick your brain type stuff.
Yeah.
And just trying to like learn some stuff, and was able to learn a few things and book a few gigs, and eventually some more gigs, and got to a point where I was doing about 60 or 70 paid speaking gigs a year. And it was awesome. I was having a blast traveling all over the US, and had a lot of people who were asking me like, hey, I want to do that. I would love to be a speaker. How would I do that? And so started doing some coaching training around that. And then about 6 years ago, so we started the Speaker Lab, which is what we do today, which, as you said, we work with speakers, teaching them basically the ins and outs of the speaking industry, and specifically how do you get booked and paid to speak with your message. And so that's what we do today, is work with speakers of all different ages, stages of life. We worked with speakers in every US state, 49 different countries around the world. Wow. All different subjects, topics, industries. There's just a massive amounts of opportunities for speakers. And so I know for a lot of people who may be interested in, one of the things I like about speaking is it is the type of thing that you could certainly do full time. There are speakers that do 50, 75, 100 gigs a year, and that's fine. But there may be also some of your audience who's listening who's like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I'm a busy mom, and I don't want to be on the road, 50, 75, 100 nights a year. I'd love to do 5 gigs or 10 gigs. I'd love to do some stuff locally or maybe virtually. And I just don't know how do I find those, and what do I speak about, and who hires me, and how does this world work? And so, yeah, there are amazing opportunities for speakers that exist right now.
Well, kudos to you for bringing it online. I can't imagine how much that has affected the world at large, and also for your business to be able to be at home and spend more time with your family. So that's really cool that you're bringing this message and helping so many.
Yeah. And I think that, one of the things that when I was speaking, and I still speak some, but not nearly as much as I used to, but when I was speaking full time, like one of the things I would speak a lot about was this idea that who you are is more important than what you do. Who you are is more important than what you do. Meaning, if we are great, if we're great podcasters, if we're great speakers, if we're great entrepreneurs, if we're great fill in the blank at whatever it is that we do in obvious, generally in a professional sense. But if we drop the ball as husbands, as wives, as moms, as dads, as sons, as daughters, as human beings, if like we're this shell of a person, we're doing it wrong. And so I tell our team internally all the time that, listen, I love being an entrepreneur. I love being a business owner. I love being a speaker. I love the things that I get to do. But my most important roles by far, hands down, is being a great husband and being a great dad to my girls. And so my wife, she had a choice, but she's stuck with me at this point. My three daughters did not have a choice. They're stuck with me. And so I want to be the best possible husband, the best possible dad that I can be. And so I don't think it's like an either or thing. I think you can have your cake and eat it too. I think I can be successful in business and I can lead a good company and I can make an impact with our team members, our employees, the speakers that we work with. And I can also be a good husband and I can be a good father and I can have both. But you have to be massively intentional about that, because typically it swings to one side or the other. But you get to design, like as entrepreneurs, like you get to design the rules of the game. And so you get to decide what it looks like for you. And so you may see someone else doing it and you're like, that doesn't work. Like that doesn't resonate with me. But they're playing a different game. They're playing different rules than what may make sense for you. And that's okay. And you may see someone on the other end of the spectrum and they're not doing nearly as much, and you think they could be doing so much more. It's like, that's okay, they're playing a different game. And so you get to design the rules for what makes sense for you in your life and what it is that you want to do.
Yes. Well, I think we could end the podcast right there, because I'm just over here nodding like the power of and, that you don't have to do this or the other, but really designing what works for you, which has always been my methodology for everything I've ever done here sharing online. So thank you for sharing that. I feel like we're very like-minded in that way. So let's dive into what it is. Just where do people start? Let's say that I have an idea of something I want to share, or even what if I don't know that I want to share, but I know that I would love to speak. That I know that that's an even trickier question, because that's so individually based, which again, not many people love to speak publicly. I feel like it's a rare breed. I kind of think of that Seinfeld where he tells the story of, when pulled, the average person would rather at a funeral be the one in the casket than the one giving the eulogy. Like it just goes to say that speaking can be terrifying for some, and there are some that love it. So let's say that I love it, or let's say that I want to learn to love it, and I'm at the point where I want to be profitable with speaking. What are your bits of advice for getting started?
Yeah. And so when we do this, what we do inside the Speaker Lab with all of our students is we walk them through what we call the Speaker Success Roadmap. Okay. This is a 5-step process that makes the acronym SPEAK, SPEAK. And so why don't we just kind of go through this at like a high level overview, and then we can just jump in wherever you want. So the S we'll start with is select a problem to solve. Select a problem to solve. And so there's 2 key questions that every speaker needs to think through. Number 1 is, who do you speak to? And number 2 is, what problem do you solve for that audience? Now, this isn't exclusive to just speakers. Like, this is true for any type of business, any type of entrepreneurial endeavor that you want to do. You got to be clear about who your audience is and what problem you solve. Now, the challenge here for so many speakers is that we want to make this as broad and vague as possible. And so, who do I speak to? I don't know. I speak to people. I speak to humans. My message is for everybody. It's like, well, let's narrow it down. Okay, I speak to females. Like, oh, that's still half the world's population. So like, it's really difficult to narrow it down because we think we need to be able to speak to as many people as possible. And the same thing is true whenever it comes to, what do you speak about, or what problem do you solve? So sometimes I'll ask speakers, what do you speak about? And they say, well, what do you want me to speak about? I can speak about anything. I can speak about entrepreneurship or podcasting or parenting or marriage or family or faith, or on and on the list goes. And it's like, but really, can you speak on all these different things?